probably appropriate to call us to order. I'm wondering, I don't seem to be able to move my screen around tonight for some reason. Don't quite understand. So I have a total of 9 faces that I'm looking at. Normally I move my screen back and forth, but for some reason it doesn't seem to want to do that.
We only have 9 tonight, Brian.
Okay, well that would explain it then. Okay. Shall we call the meeting to order? For November 3rd, 2021. I don't know if you've all looked at the agenda. Does anyone have any corrections or things they'd like to add to it for tonight? Seeing none, under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest that they'd like to bring forth? Okay. Can we approve and adopt the minutes? Moved by Neil. Or do we do this by consensus?
Just by consensus.
Okay, so no one has, everyone's good with the minutes. That's good. We don't seem to have any presentations or announcements unless something's been added. We have no delegations. This is like the meeting this morning. we sailed through the first 5 or 6 items. Well, Dorothy, we're over to you. Consideration of reports, the community impact grants.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Devlin, if you want to share the screen, that'd be great. I sent you all this morning this spreadsheet, and basically it's just a summary in a 1-page document of all our applications, what people are asking for, what the funds are to be used for. And then I identified any red flags that I thought needed to be brought up. Can you hear me okay? Because I just got a message that my internet is poor. Okay, good. So all I did, like I said, I put together a summary. I want you to see the total number of requests. So it's 40,300. Our budget is 70, but I also want to bring to your attention that our annual grants that I receive letters for that are automatically approved by council, that total is just shy of 20, well, it's 24,000 basically. So we've got enough money to go around to everybody. Our grand total is 64,378 if we were to approve everything tonight. So I just wanted you to know that. And there were only 2 groups that I red flagged. The Bellwood Lions, which this one really is kind of not sitting well with me. They want to purchase hockey nets and snow blowers for their outdoor ice pad that they do at the Bellwood Ball Diamond. But because they are a service club, it makes them ineligible for this funding. So what I would like to probably suggest is maybe they can apply for the OLG funding, or even Pat, and I don't know if this would apply or not, but the neighborhood funding, I'm not sure. But because of the criteria, and service clubs are not eligible, they don't meet the criteria. And then the other one at the bottom of the page is KIP. As you know, they got approved for McDonald funding to put in the shelter in the park down there. So now they've applied for money to pour the cement pad for that project. And I just identified that as that's a capital project, and capital projects are not eligible for this funding either. So I can let her know about the OLG funding. They might be, I don't know, they might be able to apply for that one, but this one they're not eligible for. And other than that, I have gone through every one and I've read them as much as I can in detail. And I really didn't have any other red flags that came to my attention unless anybody else did. So what I want to do is just give you this summary for tonight. You can take it away. But I think at our December meeting, we'll be in a better position to award and approve any of these grants that evening. You guys haven't had them long enough to review them all yet, so I want to give you ample time to make sure you can review them in detail, and then we'll work on them next month. If anybody has any questions at all, I'm happy to answer.
Does anybody have any questions? Pat?
Just for clarity, Dorothy, on the procedure going forward. I believe last year you asked people to hand their scores in by a date prior to our next meeting. Is
Okay.
that correct? And is that still the plan? Sorry, I'm just not.
Yeah, that would be great, because then I can put together the summary for the meeting of where everything is. So I don't have a calendar, and yes, I do. Let me just check. Well, I can email everybody tomorrow too. And if you do want to score them and send them in to me, then that helps me, and I can do the spreadsheet and we can go through them fairly quickly. The only thing I want to bring to your attention though is when you do score, you know, if you have any questions before you want to score, then it's going to be tough to do that. I can't recall what I did last year for the process. That's terrible. Grace, did you have a question?
No, not really. I didn't. I think I just had my hand up here at my face, but
Oh, okay.
we didn't send scores in ahead of time last year. I know that.
Yeah,
I
was
feel
starting
like
with
in a way we need to do sort of score it, but have a bit of discussion so we can, I don't know. I like the idea of not sending it all ahead of time, but I'll do whatever is expected.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry,
I don't think
could
we
have
did.
been misremembering.
Yeah, I don't think we did.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
easier to bring the scores to the meeting, and then before anything is finalized, if people have questions, because those answers may change their score, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's better. So I've sent you all the scoring sheets. I believe you have all the information you need now to just review them and make some decisions.
So we're not
Correct.
to consider the two that you've red flagged there. We don't even look at those, right?
Well, they're not eligible. It's very black and white in the policy that service clubs are not eligible, or capital projects are not eligible. Now, there is the line in the policy that says decisions can be deferred to council to make give approval. So if you feel strongly enough about one of the applicants, and it can be deferred to council for a decision. I'm just telling you, those are the two I identified that don't meet the criteria of the grant. That's all. Okay.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I'm still just really surprised that we're not, even meeting the amount of grants for the eligible funding. And I'm just kind of curious. So I know I've seen the advertising on the township's social media and website. Does it get posted as well in like the advertiser and local newspapers and such? Yeah.
Yep. So I take it a step further. So I advertise it in the paper, it goes over social media, on our website, and then I send an email out to all the groups that have applied in the last couple of years, just to remind them the grant's now available and they have the opportunity to apply. So I was surprised that a couple new ones from last year didn't reapply this year. But the other thing to keep in mind, there was one. We had 4 last year that had to roll over their funding. And I've only had 1 request for a rollover this year, and that was Sensational Allura. So they would have been a $5,000 grant request, but they're rolling that funding over. They did not spend it this year. So, and if they would have asked, we would have been right at $70,000.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments or questions or concerns?
I'll just say this, Brian, part of the reason we're not getting applications is these are for events and and for things people are doing out in the public. And there's really a lot of uncertainty about what we're allowed to do and what we can do and how long we'll be able to do it. So I think you're seeing people just sit back and wait and see how this COVID situation plays itself out. And I don't think we'll be in the same boat next year. I think we'll be in another situation where we have more applications than money.
That's my thoughts exactly, Neil. Like, we still have people, yeah, like haven't spent money from 2 years ago, right? So I think we'll be in a different situation next year moving forward for sure.
Right. So you may be suggesting that we should look at the two that you red flagged with a little bit of attention, just in case there's something about them that we might like to defer to council. I mean, it's a long shot, but we shouldn't just rule them out. We should have a look at it anyway.
Well, I feel it's my job to point out to you if there are ones that are red, or I call it red flagged. You know, service clubs and capital projects are two big ones that are ineligible for funding. So that's all. That's my only comment, is that those are the two that don't meet the criteria, and I put it in there. Now, if the committee wants to go through and read them and feel they should be awarded funding, there is the clause about deferring it to council, and it bypasses this committee.
Yeah, that's a tricky one though, isn't it? Because it's hard to say, but anyway, it's worth looking at. But we had a couple last year of the same, almost exactly the same circumstances, which we did reject and we didn't forward. Great.
Yes, that's correct.
Any further thoughts or comments on this? Thanks for all the material you sent. And we have a month to get acquainted with it and grade the various applications.
And if somebody has questions along the way, like, you know, reach out. I'm happy to answer. I may not have all the answers, but I'll certainly try. But like I said, I've gone through each and every one. And yeah, I mean, there's a couple I have maybe some questions on, and I'll wait for you guys to get to some of those. But overall, those were the only two I identified.
Great. Well, if there's nothing else, we can move on to information items. 8.1 is the rules that pertain to step 3, happy rules, I think. And we have, Devlin, are you going to put that up on the screen? Sorry, Pat, you're muted.
I was going to do a verbal presentation. I don't think there's something for the screen, correct, Evelyn? No, I just, we sent the links if anybody wanted to read about, if you want to read the 27 pages of the Ontario regulation changes. And then the shorter version of that is the news release that was put out by Ontario Newsroom, and those were attached as FYI. So yes, I'm just going to give a verbal update, if that's okay, Brian.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's good. On October 25th, the province made updates to the rules for areas in step 3 and at roadmap to exit step. So recreation facilities and theaters that are required to show proof of vaccine, they removed all capacity limits, and they removed the requirement to distance 2 meters from other users. And this is a significant change in the way that we operate the Elora Community Center, Victoria Park Senior Center, Sportsplex, and the Fergus Grand Theatre. So yes, it's good. It's just made another round of protocols have to change. So we're gradually getting this all in place as a staff team. The ICE programs and rentals, really, they're pretty much back to normal operations. And what was great about this change is we can get full teams into a dressing room now. Before we had a limit of 10 or 11 in a dressing room and a bunch of kids sitting outside the room. And it was a bit chaotic in the dressing room. So we're really pleased with that. Masks are still required inside all of these areas unless you're exerting yourself in an activity. So when you play hockey, ringette, figure skating, go swimming, or participate in fitness and are active, or when you're playing pickleball, you can take your mask off. In the ICE programs, we still need to limit the time in the dressing rooms to allow for cleaning, and we continue to limit time in the building when you arrive for your ICE activity and ask people to leave right after, just because of all of the screening and requirements. We're trying to we have everything sort of staggered on our times to try and get people to arrive so there's not a huge lineup at the door. Everyone is screened every time they enter or re-enter the building. And that is something that is not going to change. We are not allowed to keep any of the records on vaccination. So if you run out to your car, you got to get back in line and register again. Or this weekend, for example, we have a girls hockey tournament. You could be playing twice at the Lord Community Center. Each time that person will have to re-enter and be rescreened and check for vaccine. There are some challenges with screening for youth without ID. So for ages 12 to 17 who are spectating or participating in unorganized sport, they're required to show their proof of vaccine and a second piece of ID. And this has been a bit of a challenge, parents saying, I'm not sending my kid's passport with him. So, I know my kid boys would have lost it the moment I handed it to them. So there are some challenges just to let you know, but our security team is working through that along with our staff. In the area of programs, they distinguish in the legislation between organized and unorganized sports or activities. And organized, if you are under the age of 18, participating in an organized sport, you do not have to show proof of vaccine. If you're participating in an unorganized sport and you're over the age of 12, you do need to provide proof of vaccine. So it's very complicated. One day you could be coming to watch your little cousin's hockey game and you have to show your vaccine. And the next day you're coming to play your own game and you don't have to show proof of vaccine. So it's a little complicated for people ages 12 to 17, and add the other layer of they don't carry ID. It's a challenge. But other than that, it's been met very positively and we're getting people in the building. And what we like to say with this new protocols is we are open for business and we're trying to get as much moving on at the recreation facilities as we can. We haven't offered public skating yet. We intend to get that off the ground in a couple of weeks. Public skating is considered unorganized and requires a few more protocols in place. It's going to require proof of vaccine for anyone 12 and older to participate. So we're just working through those layers of information and training staff at the counters and on the ice. For recreation programs, we've moved pickleball back to the Sportsplex Hall and permitting 10 per time slot, and that seems to be going very well. The fitness classes have moved out of the ECC back into the aerobic studio at the Fergus Sportsplex, started today. I think they moved today, and they have 15 capacity in those classrooms. And so that seems to be a good number in there. And the weight room will be open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily for drop-in use. And we're just reissuing cards because we have a new key card system that was changed over during COVID. And we're just getting our members their new cards so that they can access. So we're working through that as well. But there's going to be no pre-registration necessary once we get these key cards passed out. People can just come in and use the weight room. However, we are going to, in that change room, keep the sauna closed for now. We're just not really understanding the legislation on that space. The Victoria Park Senior Center, unfortunately, they had already released all their programs and registrations almost to the mid-December. So those will continue to run, but in January, they'll return to recruiting more of their volunteers back and their conveners. They're going to stagger their drop-in programs so that they can get as many in that facility as it will allow. And they'll be open 5 days a week for regular hours. So we're looking forward to January at the Senior Center. The theater had their first show on Thursday, October 21st. They had 100 people in the audience and it went off with no problems. The facility hall rentals, we are still working through our protocols on that. It's a bit of a challenge. We haven't really rented our halls much during COVID as they were mostly being used for vaccine clinics or recreation programming. And we're taking each inquiry case by case and firming up our protocols for hall rentals. The Aquatic Center, we've increased capacity in all of our programs. So that's lessons, lane swims, and everything else. And the change rooms and lockers are open with no limitations. So as you can see, we really are switching to an open state and gradually getting all our protocols in place and getting our users back into the facilities. So I just wanted to share that with you today. Any questions or concerns?
Well, that's great information. I mean, it's a lot of work for you folks, but it certainly is a good to be seeing it come to that stage when you think back a year or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So thanks for that.
Yeah, we're pleased to see everybody coming back in. It's just, it's a lot of procedure and layers of legislation to work through to get it done. and we're happy to do it. It just, we ask everyone their patience as we introduce each program. We have to set up its protocol, and then, you know, then we're good. Just look at the next one and get that set up. So we're working through it.
Neil?
Yeah, Pat, I just wanted to say thanks to you and your staff. I know it hasn't been easy. And on a Friday night, the province releases a press release and lets the whole world know that things have changed. And it's usually not until the Monday or Tuesday that they send the sticky little details that we have to follow and staff have to implement in order to make that happen. And all that time, your frontline staff are left juggling citizens' concerns and people coming in expecting it to be one way, and we haven't got that way yet. And really, I haven't heard a lot of angst against your staff. I think they've handled it very, very well. So I just wanted to let you know that you guys have done a great job, and I want to make sure you let your staff know that.
That's
We'll
great. Thanks,
definitely
Neil.
pass that on. Thank you.
Anything else on that matter? Well, 8.2, the next item is about the Healthy Growth Advisory Committee, and I'm reporting on that. As I've explained in the past, this committee, which is now also has two subcommittees, is geared to looking at methods and means by which our township can acquire or encourage attainable housing, which is not affordable housing. Attainable housing is basically housing that people in the middle can afford in an era when a lot of people who have jobs can't afford to pay, or there's a lack of housing just in general for people that are working here in the tourism industry. So it's a multi-pronged problem. We recently sent 3 recommendations to council, and they passed, all of which were procedures relating to 3 very separate approaches. One had to do with commercial zoning, on highway commercial zoning, and allowing a more fulsome residential presence and that kind of area. Another was enhancing the community improvement program, which we already have, but which can encompass much more, and part of which would pertain to attainable housing and housing starts in general. And then the other was a new form of pre-planning or permitting for housing, which sets the criteria at the beginning rather than having to judge every single project by a number of different criteria. That's an interesting proposal, which will take a little bit of time to get going, but it's being done in many communities now, and it certainly that CPPS, as it's called, Community Planning Permit System. Is that right? Sorry, I don't have it written down in front of me. That system certainly created some interest and some discussion, and there's a need for a little bit more explanation of how it works, because it's a bit of a black box at this point, but that will be forthcoming. To attainable housing, we have now added on this committee sustainable housing. So another initiative is being put into the mix, which is to look at how we will get attainable housing, but we'll also make it and other housing sustainable. And I don't know exactly how that path is going to be followed, but it's another key component of a healthy community. And so there will be more discussion about that. And we're going to introduce the topic and the paths that the ways we can look at it, and what we can do within the concept of, or the context of, a CIP and the CPPS. So that's what's new today. That came up, and we said, yes, we need to pursue that as well. So that's essentially where we're at. A very active and interesting committee with a lot of different backgrounds in it, and we seem to be proceeding. And as somebody said today, I think it was Don Fisher, we have a year, so we've got to keep going to get some stuff done, because we have some stated goals. Anyway, that's my report. Happy to answer any questions, and or try to explain any further. It's a lot of it is, there's a lot of discussion, and this we really have had to rely on Mariana Iglesias and Brett Salmon, our senior planners for the township, because there's a lot of jargon and a lot of procedural aspects to these CIPs and CPPSs. So they've been great. I throw that out into the public record. Anyway, if anyone has anything else they want to ask, or then we'll proceed. Next item is the indoor turf facility. I'm not sure. I suspect that at some point in the next little while there'll be a meeting, but Kurt's not here unless he's.
Kurt's there.
Anyone have any thoughts on that?
Kurt's sitting down there at the bottom of your screen with turf.
Is he? Okay. All right. See, now I can move it. There you are, Kurt. Sorry.
Yes, I'm here and I don't have anything to say.
Okay. Anyway, someday there'll be a lot to say about this. This will become a hot item, and we'll dazzle you, I'm sure. Anyway, okay, thanks, Kurt. Good to see. I'm glad I saw you there. Neil, you have a council update?
Yeah, so well, most of the council update would have been around your CPPS presentation that the Healthy Growth Committee made, and we had a fulsome discussion on that. And the committee's got a lot of work to do on it to clarify things for people. But I've done some research even since, Brian, and I think you guys are on the right track. And I think it's what I would refer to as a front-end loaded public participation. So at the start, there's a lot of public participation. There's a lot of public consultation so that we get it right. And then we have a layout of how permits and how subdivisions are to look. And then there's less red tape moving forward. So all the work goes up at the front. And I appreciate the Healthy Growth Committee doing that work a lot of that work for us. And I can't wait for the public to get engaged so we can hear from them. The other thing that was on the council agenda came from this committee. And I want to thank you for sending up some good work through Kendra on the neighborhood grants. And council accepted that policy. And so we're moving forward with that. So Kendra is going to put that out into the public. I think I saw a press release the other day that people are looking to name it, and they're looking to get people to start projects. So good work from this committee and accepted by council. And now Kendra can run through and we'll go from there with the neighborhood grants. The other topic of discussion with council, besides the budget things are ongoing, and we'll get to that. We've got more meetings coming. But the big thing that was on this agenda was the parking bylaw. And if some of you have been, dealing with that or suffering through it, or some are enjoying it, I know there was a real difference in the two communities, Fergus and Elora, as to who liked it and who didn't. But council, really, we launched this as a pilot project in the middle of a COVID pandemic. There hasn't been as much traffic in the downtown cores as there used to be. So we just decided to do this for another year, so we get a better understanding of what effect the parking bylaw will have on the community. And we're going to move forward from there once we get it established and get some better studies done and get it some better data, whether we're going to continue it or not. But it will go on for one more year. I believe I've covered it all, Brian.
Wonderful. Covered it well. Thanks, Neil. Next, the staff updates. The first one is parks and facilities. So I'm turning it to Pat.
Matt's not here, so I'll cover his items in my departmental update.
Okay.
So we'll skip 9.1.
Okay. Over to you, Dorothy, for 9.2.
Okie dokie. I just have a few things to update. So on our special event page right now, we have 8 of our big special events booked to come back next year, which is very exciting. We're all hoping and praying that they'll stay booked with us, but we're confident that they will, and so are they. So let's hope that happens, but that's exciting. Pat mentioned about the theater and the senior center reopening. What we're working on right now currently is bringing back all our volunteers and training them. There's a lot of hesitancy with our volunteers, especially at our senior center. A lot aren't ready to come back. So we have a lot of work to do with our volunteers. We can't run the senior center to full capacity without them. So we've got some work to do over the next couple months to build that confidence up and to encourage them it's a safe environment to come back to. So that's on our list of things to do. The tourism office has been extremely busy this summer. Our washrooms have never seen so much use as they have this summer. I just did a quick scan. We do stats every day there. And over the last 4 months, we haven't had an average of 4,000 people come through our building. That's a lot of people that just come in. That doesn't mean how many have been in town, but 4,000 on average. That's like 1,000 people a week coming through. So it's been pretty busy. We're still supporting our BIAs. The road closures have now ended in both communities, but they will be closing the roads down during their Starlight Shopping and Sip and Shop events. It's happening for both communities in the end of November and beginning of December. And on a really happy note, we're so excited to share with you that both Santa Claus parades are happening this year. Alora only just made the decision this week, and honest to God, having a grandchild, I couldn't be more happier. So we're really excited. That's a step in the right direction, right? Is to get those parades going. And I think our community absolutely needs them. Even my husband said, we need this. So I'm thinking, oh, it's bad when he says that. So it's all good. Yeah, and we're continuing to work with RTO4, our provincial tourism partner. They're actually working on a strategy for workforce in the tourism industry. Because again, with the attainable housing problem, and we're seeing a lot of people looking for workers in this industry. So they've hired a consultant to do a study for Alora Fergus in the workforce environment for tourism. So we'll look forward to having those results, and I'll be happy to share them with this committee when they're available. And I think that's all I have. Yep, that's it for now.
I can't help but ask this. Do you have any sense of how the numbers or anything about how the tourism has been this year? I mean, it's for people that go downtown who live here, it seems like we have massive amounts of tourism. And I know, judging by the number of complaints by local people about the blocked off streets, something good must be happening. It certainly seems to me to be a fabulous idea, in my opinion.
Well,
but
yeah, the road closures in Alora have worked out very well. We only wanted to keep them going till the end of October, simply because, all our outdoor patios that take up space on sidewalks and roadways now have got to come in. Because as you said, Brian, it snowed earlier. We got to make sure our roads are cleared for when that happens. So, but yeah, I only went back for July to October to pull out those numbers. I can go back, we keep them daily. Yes, we have seen a lot of people come through. These are only the people that are coming in and using the facility and stopping to ask questions. A lot of people, we had our self-serve information booth in our shed this past summer, which worked out very well. So we weren't able to grasp what they were coming in asking for like we normally do. So when we open up the office to provide that full service again, we'll have better numbers. But I've even heard just from some local businesses that October has probably been the biggest month they've had this summer. And I think that has to do with all the monsters displays. Like, it's been crazy down here. So, and I do believe a lot of it's got to do with the monsters. So yeah, that's pretty good when they're saying an off-season month is one of their best ones. So that's an indication it's been a good summer. And I know I have talked to other people, and they're ready to pull their patios in because they're done. It's been a busy summer. Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you for that additional information. Now back to Pat.
Thanks, Brian. So I've got a couple things just to cover here. One thing that's been mentioned is the grants. and the OLG grants are also available now for applications. So if you were to go, I'm going to put this link in the minutes, but if you just go on the Centre Wellington website and in the search engine put grants, you'll come to a page. It's a new page and it has all 3 grants there, information about applications and things like timing and details for all of them. So I encourage you, if you want to look at it, it's the OLG is the Arts, Culture, Heritage Grant. So I know, Dorothy, you and I talked about some of the other projects who were ineligible for the community impact grants, possibly going over there, but they still have to meet arts, culture, and heritage as the intent of those grants. So if you are aware of any groups that are looking for funding, the difference here is capital is permitted in this grant. They should be submitting their applications and all the information's online. The Elora Community Center renovation, the work behind the scenes is ongoing with the architects. We've had a site visit with them on site. We anticipate they're coming back again tomorrow to do additional measurements. And we also are starting to tour a couple of other sites to see what they have with their dressing rooms and things like that. So progress is ongoing, and eventually we will be coming to this group for some feedback once we have something to share first, so that you have something to comment on. So this will be one of the stakeholder groups that will be part of that process. Just wanted to give you an update on some of the 4 parks. So Forfar Park, it was our intent to have that completed by this fall. When they were excavating that park, they ran into some wet soil, which meant they had to stop work and allow that to dry. The timing on that is likely now going to be completed in the spring. So our intent had been to have it open, but they ran into a condition that could not be foreseen prior to starting to excavate. The parks and outdoor park washrooms are starting to close. We're moving to our winter hours for our outdoor washrooms and public washrooms. We are thinking already about, preparing for those outdoor rinks and getting excited about that, looking for volunteers for some of them. We had many of them last year because of COVID, and that was the only thing people could do outside. Not only thing, but they couldn't go inside to play. So we are looking for as many as we can get up and running, but we will need some more volunteers, because they do take a bit of work. And so there's a call for help for that. And we're really hoping the weather cooperates like it did last year. We had great weather for keeping those ice rinks going. Just so you are aware, and I'm not sure, Neil might have mentioned the CSAC meetings are going to continue on Zoom for now. Council meetings and committee meetings will continue on Zoom. And as Neil mentioned, we're hard into it for the township budget, getting that budget book ready for later this month. We meet with council on, is it November 30th and December 2nd, I think, Councillor Dunsmore. And when we look at the community services budget, specifically parks and recreation, although we're back open to business, we really feel that 2022 is what we're calling a recovery year for many of the programs and services. People have not been to the gym. They've got to get back into that routine. We've got to recover them as members. There's many things people are still hesitant to come in and do. We're not going to open those doors January 1st and be 100% back to normal in capacity, but we will build our capacity over the year and get our revenues and services back to normal. That's our intent. So you'll see some limitations. We're anticipating still in Q1 from the province. And then hopefully, as they mentioned, after March, a lot of the health restrictions, if the numbers stay low, will be released, and we'll start to even see more recovery coming. So it's been a tough couple of budgets to work through, but that's where we're at. Any questions on any of those things? That's really what I wanted to share from a department and a capital and facilities update.
Pat, can you remind us of what the budget is for the Elora Community Center project? I know there was a grant or there was money forthcoming, but just remind us.
Yeah, so the entire funding for that project is just shy of $5 million. I think it's something like $4,997,000 and change. It was a strange amount, but yeah, it's just shy of $5 million for that. And when we had started the project, we had applied for that grant back in late 2019. And we just received word that it was approved. Like it took them over a year and a half to get back to us for the approval of that. Cost of things right now is brutal on things like steel and concrete and building supplies. So that we will not get as much done as we had hoped with this renovation. That's what we're hearing. We had 11 architects attend our meeting where they came to review the project, to bid on it. And they all thought we were crazy thinking we would get everything on the list done. So now it's the project of what is our priorities, what must get done, and then working with our input groups to hear what else, where we want to make the best use of the rest of the funds, because we're not going to get it all done. But our priority number one is that arena floor is at end of life. It's limping along this season, but it needs to be ripped up and replaced. And with that comes boards and glass and a few other things that make up the arena. We also have a significant challenge in our dressing rooms there. They're quite small. And then the other priority is obviously accessibility. As a municipal building, it must meet AODA standards by 2025. And there's quite a significant amount of work for accessibility that has to be completed. So those are the things we definitely need to get done. And then we have to look at what else can we afford to accomplish with this grant. It was a good question, Brian. I went on and on, didn't I?
No, I think we were all probably dying to know, because it's the big one right now. And there's a lot of people use that building. And I was a newspaper reporter for the News Express when it was built. And it was just tickety-boo at that time. And not that that's a journalism word, but and here we are. We're coming around again.
That gives away a bit of your age there, Brian.
Well.
That's 40 years ago that that facility was built. But yeah, it's an exciting project, and we're all thrilled to be working on it. As you can imagine, we're also on a quick, short turnaround timeline to get the shovels in the ground by August 2022.
Good stuff. Well, we'll continue to be interested in what's going on, and look forward to progress reports as we go. That's the last item in the agenda, unless I'm misreading it. Does anyone have anything they want to throw out or throw at us in the waning moments of our meeting? Next time we meet is December 1st. It will be 4 weeks before Christmas, by which time you'll have all your shopping done, and we'll go at these grants, and we'll have Christmas gifts for some groups in the community. Anyway, if that's it, I guess we can adjourn. Everybody in favor of that?
Anybody not in favor of that wants to?
Put up your hand if you're not in favor.
Dean's got to run in 3 minutes whether we adjourn or
Good
not.
stuff. Well, that was a quick meeting. That's great. Thanks everybody for coming out, and we'll see you in December, if not before.
Okay.